Elex is a third-person action RPG from the creators of the Gothic series, and one that after playing, I feel never really got the attention it deserved, and with the surprise announcement that Elex 2 is now on the way, it might just be a good time to give it a try. Elex is set in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy world called Magalan, which was hit by a comet turning most of the world into a wasteland. This comet also brought with it a mysterious substance called Elex. The survivors began to form factions, each with a unique perspective on life and different ways of using the Elex. The world of Elex is definitely an interesting one. It's an open world and fairly large with different biomes including lush jungle, brutal lava wastelands, hot deserts and icy mountains. There is a fair amount of running around involved to get about, but this is broken up by the fact that you also have a jetpack strapped to you, and this lets you traverse the world in some interesting ways. It also opens up some nice tactical advantage sometimes when it comes to the combat. There is fast travel available by means of discoverable teleporters, which you will be using a lot as your questing will constantly take you from one side of the map to the other. As the player, you will take on the role of Jax, an Alb commander who is betrayed and left for dead, and gives himself the mission of finding out why. The Albs are a faction that ingest Elex and gain special powers from it. Usually when people ingest Elex, they lose themselves and turn into jacked up zombies with a serious addiction problem. But the Albs are functional addicts and are made up of those that can keep control of themselves. They are cold, logical, and very powerful. Unfortunately, after being knocked out, all of your Elex has left your system, so when you start the game, you are completely powerless. Something that is of course standard in almost every game. However, in Elex, it's actually a bit of a problem, because this game is pretty tough. The combat is action based, and the enemies can take a hell of a beating. For the first few levels you will struggle to kill anything, and will more often than not be forced to run away from any mobs that attack you. At first, I was a bit confused by this, and thought I'd made a serious mistake with my character development. But after searching online for some tips as I was struggling, I found that this is actually by design, and I thought that was quite refreshing. It makes the world feel as described for once. It feels wild and dangerous, and forces you to think about what you're doing and where you're going. And I found I needed to use stealth to complete some early quests, rather than just running in and beating everything into the dirt. Progression is based around a typical attribute system, as well as a slightly more unique skill system. Attributes, as always, affect your base stats, as well as being prerequisites for being able to use certain weapons, as well as dictating what skills you can actually learn. Skills can be learned from various trainers scattered around the world using skill points, and this is where the true character customization and development comes from. There are skills for charisma, pickpocketing, armor proficiency, crafting, and a lot more. It does feel a little restrictive at first, and takes a bit of planning to work out what attribute distribution you need in order to get a certain skill whilst also making sure you can use a weapon you like. But eventually it does get easier, and you do start to feel a little more free in the system. You can also really feel your dude getting more powerful, and feel a real sense of development as the mobs that would melt you earlier now are a lot more manageable. In terms of weapons, there are a few different types to choose from, including swords, axes, bows, as well as some more sci-fi weapons such as laser rifles and plasma rifles. I found the ranged weapons worked best for my playstyle, as whenever I tried to melee anything, I just ended up dead. This did have a lot to do with the fact that I'm absolutely useless when it comes to any form of blocking or dodging though. As you travel about, you will make friends and enemies, and the characters all have some pretty good voice acting.
Ha! You can't simply buy a warlord's armor. You don't even have the rank of a cultivator.
There are a lot of filler NPCs around though, and your only interaction with these will be a short generic reply.
We'll talk later, yeah?
You can also put together a team of companions that will help you with your mission, and you can have one of these guys or gals following you at any one time. They each have their own stories and missions to explore, and they're all pretty interesting. They also help a hell of a lot when it comes to survivability, and having your companion tank for you whilst you whittle away at the health of the enemy will be a valuable tactic, at least at first. You will be given the chance to join a faction on your journey, and each of these factions feels very unique, not just in design but in worldview. The Berserkers, for example, are people that have forsaken all technology, and they live like barbarians in heavy armour. They use Elex to power a form of magic. If they see you using technology nearby, they will tell you off, something that can actually get a bit annoying when you're in town and every single person keeps shouting at you. But it does add some backbone to their theme.
Take that tick to the pit! It should be disposed of!
Another faction are the Clerics. These are the complete opposite of the Berserkers, and they fully embrace technology. They are highly religious and have lasers and robots and force fields around their bases. Different again are the Outcasts, who live like Mad Max in the desert, where it's every man for himself. I feel they did a really good job of making the factions feel distinctive, and it gives good opportunities for replay, as you can go back and experience what each faction has to offer you. It is also worth mentioning that quests are interconnected, and things will change depending on how you behave. It isn't the most extensive implementation of this I've seen, but it's nice to see nonetheless. Overall, if you have any love at all for action RPGs, then it is well worth giving Elex a shot. I have really enjoyed my time playing, and I'm not sure why it took me so long to actually give it a go, but I am really glad I did. I was a bit unsure at first, but the more I played, the more I got to grips with its unique playstyle. It is more of a challenge than, say, an Elder Scrolls game, with some nice quests and difficult combat. The movement and combat can feel a little clunky at times, but as you learn different ways to take down enemies, it becomes less of a problem and more about tactics. It also helps to get to grips with the jetpack. The weapons and armour are pretty cool looking, and you can feel the variation between the factions and their belief systems. The world is a unique blend of sci-fi and fantasy, and it's pretty nice to look at. It feels dangerous, and it's fun to explore with lots of little hidden secrets scattered about. So there you go, that's my brief overview of Elex. I tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, let me know your thoughts on Elex down in the comments. That's all from me on this one. See you in the next one.